India returned to Test cricket, and day one at Galle is dominated by Devdutt Padikkal. He gives India only their second away 100 by a Test match number three this decade. And how fitting then for us to be joined by the man who made hundreds by number threes for India away from home, the norm. Cheteshwar Pujara is back on Cricinfo Matchday. Puji, thank you so much for your company. Glad to have you back on our platform.
Thank you, Yash. Looking forward to this conversation. And what a day it was for the Indian team. I think the way Devdutt started his innings and the way he batted when he walked into to the crease. Unfortunately, Yashashvi was run out. But when he walked in, I think it looked like there's a guy who is in form. The way he was batting, it looked like he has worked on his game. He has been scoring runs in first class cricket. But what was impressive to see is that. He has worked on his game. It's not just for Test cricket, but the kind of runs he's scoring, even in the IPL, the way his foot movement is, he has worked on his footwork. There's a bit more stability in his stance. So when you look at the technical aspect of his game, it looks like he has worked on it. There are hours and hours of effort which has been put in, and that is why we are seeing the results now.
Yeah, 131 not out he is in India's total of 288 on day one. It's only his third test, but the first he's played in very nearly 2 years. So, could you take us further into what you saw in terms of the improvements and what stood out from that very brief version of Padikkal we'd seen in the test in Dharamshala and Perth in 2024 and what we saw at Galle?
One thing which stood out is this confidence, and that confidence comes from hard work. The amount of hours he has put in the nets, his preparation looks like it is on top of his game. And there is clarity when it comes to Test cricket. You need to have that clarity. And not to forget that when you are batting at number three and when you are getting that opportunity, you are always under pressure. So what was impressive to see is that he had to make count of his opportunity. And when you are playing for the Indian team and when you are getting that opportunity after a while, you are under pressure. So mentally, you need to be tough. And it looked like he was up for this challenge. He grabbed this opportunity with both hands. I'm sure he will make this count because it's not just about getting hundreds, but it's about getting big hundreds. And he's still unbeaten. So maybe when it comes to day two, he might make it into a big one and he might get to double hundred. But good part is he's mentally up for this challenge.
Yeah, I wanted to go further into that because I feel like you personally can perhaps appreciate the element of making the most of a chance in the early days because this was Padikkal with a 21 month gap between test cap number two and number three. If we go back to the start of the previous decade, you waited 18 months between test cap number three and four. After a tough part in South Africa, you waited your time, then got the chance in the home series against New Zealand much later, and you knew you had to make the most of it. So, how much can you value that wait, that testing period, and what Padikkal has achieved?
Yeah, I think, see, when you wait for your next opportunity, because when you have played for the Indian team for the first time, there are a lot of nerves. You may or may not be successful when you get your first opportunity. But once you are out of the squad and when you are making a comeback, you know what is expected out of you. You know what it takes to be successful at the highest level. So Devdutt, because he has worked on his game and the kind of success he had in the IPL, that will definitely reflect even in test format. I know that it's a completely different format, but when you have tasted such success at the highest level, you want to achieve that again because there was failure when it comes to test cricket. When we are talking about Devdutt Padikkal, he got the opportunity in Indian Test team, but he was out of the Indian Test team for various reasons. He may not, I mean, he didn't get a long run. But now he knows that if he wants to be successful in Indian Test team, he has to score runs. He has to make the most of his opportunity, and which he has done, and which is never easy because when you get that opportunity, doesn't matter what kind of pitches you are playing on, doesn't matter what opposition is there in front of you, you still need to be mentally tough. You still need to play your natural game, and you still need to make every moment count. And I think the kind of stability he showed at the crease, the kind of composure we have seen in his innings, which was very commendable.
All right. So, Padikkal, the headline maker on day one, stitched a great partnership with his Karnataka teammate KL Rahul. They had added 150, looked fairly untroubled before Rahul was eventually troubled by cramps, had to retire hurt. You hope he makes a return at some point on day two. But from what you saw of Rahul, the trademark solidity, which has become such a hallmark of his game at the top.
Yeah, and he's for me probably one of the best Test cricketer in this Indian current Test side, where he's leading from the front all the time. He's showing some of the young players how to approach Test cricket. Methods might be different. See, some aggressive players will carry on playing the aggressive way, but KL Rahul is showing again and again that Test cricket still can be played in a traditional way, and you can still be successful even in current era. So he's sticking to his strength. What is impressive to see is that he's defending the ball well, he's leaving the ball well. When he gets his opportunity to score runs, he's capitalizing on that. But the biggest point here is he's showing that consistency, which was lacking maybe a year and a half back, or maybe a couple of years back. He was getting enough opportunities, but he was missing out on those opportunities. Now good part is whenever he's crossing 30, 40, or 50, he's making it into a big one. And apart from that cramp where he couldn't carry on with his innings, but he still has that opportunity to get to his 100 and maybe make a big 100. So hopefully on day two, if he gets to bat, he will make it count, he will get a big 100.
Yeah, he'll also want to make some runs for his opening partner because perhaps the only blip in Rahul's day before the cramps hit in was Yashasvi Jaiswal, who himself was looking like there were big runs for the taking the way he'd started. Unfortunate run out.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. There was a big mix-up, and I felt honestly that KL, when KL saw that Yashasvi was on the floor, he should have immediately gone back rather than still getting that single. Because in a test format, you don't mind missing a single, but there is a prize on your wicket. So it was a bit unfortunate for Yashasvi. But the way he was batting, again, I think it was impressive to see that he's finding the right balance of when to attack, when to defend, and he's an aggressive player. There is no doubt about it. Yashasvi will play the aggressive way, but at the same time, you can't be over aggressive in test format where there's enough time. And I think Yashasvi is trying to find that balance, and he's getting there. And hopefully, with some more runs, with some more good innings, he will gain that confidence again.
All right, let's quickly turn our attention to the Sri Lankan bowling because there were periods, Fuji, where we saw appreciable turn. There were quite a few balls that did turn more than you may have perhaps expected of a day one pitch. So, did you feel Sri Lanka have not made the most on day one?
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a lot of inexperience because there were some very good deliveries. When you look at day one's play, the ball was turning. So it wasn't a pitch where every ball was just going straight or there wasn't enough turn on offer. I felt the spinners ended up bowling some good deliveries, but it wasn't backed up with consistency. So when it comes to bowling, I feel in Test cricket, you need to have that discipline even as a spinner. You still need to keep bowling in that channel. You still need to keep hitting that length, which Sri Lankan spinners were not able to do it because there were a lot of loose deliveries in between. And when you end up bowling loose deliveries in a Test format, what happens is it releases the pressure for a batter because when you get a boundary, if your follow-up delivery is an extraordinary one, but as a batter you don't feel that pressure. You are still getting your runs, you are still easing into building that partnership. So I felt that Sri Lankan spinners were not able to hit that length consistently.
And you'd say, in particular, that was true for the debutant. I mean, of course, it is always tough making a test debut. But Novantha, in particular, felt like he was guilty of what you're talking about. Some
Yeah,
rippers, but then lots of release balls.
Yeah, I think he ended up pitching too many deliveries on the shorter side. His errors were mainly on the shorter side, and we have seen that Devdutt Padikkal was able to cut him. He was able to pull him. Even Rishabh Pant, when he walked in, he was able to play that pull shot. So Nuwanda, I felt that he bowled some extraordinary deliveries, which troubled many batters. Also, the field placement. There were many deliveries which went to the first slip, which didn't carry. So the even the field placement could have been slightly better considering the kind of pitch they are bowling on. The pitch is slightly on the slower side. So as a spinner, what you need to learn is try and make that error on the fuller side rather than the shorter side. And with the experience, I'm sure Nuanta will learn. But there is a lot of potential. The way he was bowling, I think Sri Lanka has that potential to pick wickets, and they can be a dangerous side because the pitch is already assisting. And if there is if Indian team loses some wickets, there can be a collapse. So there is a potential that Indian Sri Lankan spinners can make a comeback. But yes, there was a lack of experience, and Indian batters made the most of it.
Okay, so gaze further into that purple ball and let's try and think how you see day two panning out. Because, as you said, it's already test on an offer. There's also a lot more rain expected in these remaining 4 days at Galle. So, how do you assess where India are? How do you see India going about things on day two?
Well, it won't be easy for the Sri Lankan team to make a comeback. So I feel that Indian team is quite ahead in this game, looking at the pitch, because if you get to say 400, 450 on this pitch, there is a quality spin attack India has. You have got Ravindra Jadeja, you have got Manav Suthar, you have got Kuldeep Yadav. So that trio will be very dangerous on this pitch. It will be important for the Indian batters to start well on day two. When you start well, then you have bowlers who has already bowled 15 20 overs on day one. There will be tired legs, so it's important that Indian batters starts well in the first hour. If you capitalize the first hour, then it's your day.
All right. So, where do you see the Indian innings ending on day two?
I think somewhere close to 450. I still feel it's not an easy pitch to bat on. Unless you don't lose too many wickets early on, then you can get to 500, 550. But even if Indian team gets to 450, I think that will be a good total on this pitch.
All right. So India are hoping perhaps to bat once, bat big, bat Sri Lanka out of the game. Sri Lanka will hope for their spinners to get some wickets and get them back into the contest on day two. Puji, thank you so much for your company at the end of day one. We look forward to you joining us later on in this test match. That's all from us from the opening day of this Indian Test series in Sri Lanka on Cricinfo Matchday.